Welcome, folks. You are listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and I am Todd Tramonte. We've got a studio full today. We got the one and only Ian Daniels with us. He'll be peppering me with your questions. We've got producer Mason behind the mic, behind the board, and behind the camera. So don't forget to check us out online. You can always find our videos of each and every show, as well as all of our past shows online at tthst.tv. And then, of course, you can find all of our recommended professionals and vendors and show information at treradio.com. We're here to take all your questions today, and you can send those over as well to treradio.com. And you can always find us on social media as well, at Todd Tramonte or at Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte. So that's all the places to go for all the things to do, and I'm sure we'll get to some others as we make our way forward. But it has been cold this week, and we'll talk about the impact that has on the real estate market, and we'll take the questions you've got in regard to weather and season and buyer demand and seller confidence and all those good things. But don't forget to keep your questions coming. Ian will hit me up with those. So welcome, Ian. How English do you plan on being today?
I feel like I want to go rather English today,
rather
Todd.
English. He's going to go
rather English.
Especially
with the weather we had this week.
He's already 100% English, and what, 30%? You have American citizenship, so I mean,
yes,
technically you could say you're 100% both, which doesn't make mathematical sense. But he does have citizenship both places. But he feels extra English today, so lean in, folks. You might need to listen to this one twice to understand the questions.
True.
I'll repeat the questions.
Anytime I have to wrap up a little bit during the week makes me go a little extra English.
Extra English. Well, this segment is brought to you by D.P. Lambert and the crew over at Goosehead Insurance. I know he's got my personal insurance and quite a few of our team members, and then, I don't know, hundreds of our clients. He just does a great job. You know, when it comes down to an insurance agent who can broker your policy out to dozens of different carriers, that helps. It helps you certainly find the best deals. But in addition to that, having an agent that will spend the time to shop appropriately and find the best coverage for you. Because there's a lot of ways to go cheaper, but you lose coverage. You don't have as good of insurance. And then there are folks that are just not going to shop frequently enough for you to always have the cheapest, best option. So DP's done a phenomenal job for my wife and me, our family, and many of our team members, and lots of our clients. So when it comes to your personal insurance needs, dp.lambert@goosehead.com. Just shoot him an email, dp.lambert@goosehead.com, or you could always call him at 214-838-5684. If you ever forget DP's contact info or anybody else's, you can always head over to treradio.com, where all of our recommended pros and lots of other goodies from the show are located. treradio.com. Check out DP Lambert at Goosehead Insurance. I know we've got a bunch of questions piling up, so let's just jump into those right now.
Yeah, let's start with what you mentioned at the beginning of the show there about the weather and how that really has an impact on things. So we're at the time of year right now where we can literally feel like we have all four seasons in
one day,
48 hours or something like that. It's crazy. We've already had it a couple times this year. So as people are thinking about selling, they're not quite sure when. Is this the good time of year to do it, when the weather is so unpredictable, or does it make more sense to wait a little bit into the spring, maybe even into the summer?
Right. So if you're a regular listener to the show, if you've heard Texas Real Estate once or 100 times, you've heard me say this. The best time to sell a home is when you and your family and your finances are ready to sell your home. Now, we will talk about some of the market conditions and some of the factors that can make some times more strategic than others. But the fact of the matter remains, regardless of the market or the weather or the seasonality or the interest rate or the news or the politics or any of those things, if you and your family and your finances are not ready, then you should not sell or buy or invest or whatever the case may be. But the reverse is also true. If the market is terrible, if all the interest rates and politics and economics and everything are horrible, but you and your family and your finances are ready, a great real estate agent and lender and title company and team are going to be able to create a strategy where that would be a great time for you to sell or buy or invest. So that being said, to lay that foundation that You should not let the market be the sole driver of your decision making, or an agent or a lender or any of those things. You, your family, and your finances should be ready. Assuming that is understood and that is decided, then I would say there's a great strategy for any market. So now's a great time to sell or buy with the right strategy. If you or just kind of go blindly into the market right now, I would say it's a little bit better time it's a great time to sell. So let me split it up. It's a great time to sell, even though the weather's not as great and front yards don't look quite as good. The reason it's a really good time to sell right now, interest rates are really low, so buyers have access to borrowing money. So their budgets will be a little bit more flexible. There's fewer sellers to compete with right now, because when we roll into March and April, a lot more sellers are going to put their house on the market, which means more people will be competing with you for the available buyers. Now, let's flip over to the buy side. Why is it a really good time to buy right now? Same thing. Interest rates are really low. Buyers have more flexibility. It's more affordable to borrow money. Even if you're paying cash, it'll go a little bit further in a market like this. Also, there are fewer buyers to compete with. And based on what I said a minute ago, sellers tend to be a little bit less confident in this market. So if you've listened to the show before, you've heard a lot of these things, because I answer questions like this all the time. But it still comes back down to the fact that if you've got a great real estate agent, someone who will lead you and guide you through the process, then there's a great strategy that can be customized and created for you in any market. The stereotype which says wait till spring and summer is bad. Now, spring and summer aren't bad, but the idea that there's only 2 seasons of the year to sell a home is about 50% off, because there's 4 seasons to sell a home, because you can sell a home all year long, especially in Dallas-Fort Worth. You are listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and we're taking your questions. You can send those in at treradio.com. And our show is brought to you today by Patrick Glaros and his team over at Cardinal Financial. They're absolutely my personal go-to people for mortgage-related information. Anytime in our entire 20-something years of being together, my wife and I have ever bought property, we have reached out to Patrick Glaros. If we needed a mortgage, that's where we got it. But even when we didn't need one, when we were asking questions about financing and opportunities, refinancing investment properties, whatever, that's our first call. And I think it should be your first call too. You can reach out to Patrick and his team online at patrickglaros.com, GLAROS, patrickglaros.com, or reach out by phone at 972-728-3420, 972-728-3420, or patrickglaros.com.
So you hit on it a little bit earlier when you're answering that last question, but we don't just have low interest rate right now. We have the lowest interest rates in history. What does that mean for the market right now?
Yeah, so depending on your credit score, your credit worthiness, your income, and all those things, there are a lot of people achieving all-time record low interest rates right now. But even just kind of the marginal, median, average interest rates right now are very near all-time lows. And so that being said, if you're in your, let's just say if you're in your 20s or 30s, you've been spoiled during your adult, certainly during your home buying age, which for a lot of people in those ranges have not been very long. But you have been utterly spoiled by basically 6% or below interest rates, like your whole adult buying life. If you go talk to your parents or one generation ahead of you that lived through the late 80s savings and loan bust, or some of the economic carnage of the 70s or earlier, I mean, people were buying homes easily well into double-digit interest rates, 12, 14, 16, 18. I know people that bought residential property at over 20% interest rates, which sounds insane. Those people would look at us right now and say, you can get a 3.5%. That is free money. That is borderline free money. Now, you got to pay it back. But the point is, the person lending you that money is basically not making any money on that loan. Now, of course, people are making money, but nowhere near what it would cost to own a home when you were paying 14% interest rate. To think about the payment on just say like a $250,000 home at a 14% interest rate compared to 4% is like a whole nother world of affordability. And I think many of us have just gotten spoiled. So to your point, not only are interest rates just low, they're ridiculously low. And I think some people have thought, well, I'm going to wait until rates go down, or I'm going to wait until prices come down. Neither of those things are going to happen anytime soon unless something truly massive and unpredictable happens, right? Interest rates just can't go much lower, or there's no logic in the math. And the market we're in doesn't have any signs of slowing down. Now, I take that back. It's gradually slowing right now, but almost unnoticeably for most people. There are no signs of a sharp drop, is what I would say. So home prices are going to continue to go up, and interest rates are fantastically low. So if you're thinking about buying, and you and your family and your finances are ready, I would do that sooner than later. Before you have more buyers to compete with, more confident sellers, interest rates go up, and prices begin to taper off. All those things are bad for buyers.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, when you think about even just when I first bought my first house back in the late 2000s, early 2010 at the time, and it was 6%, and I refied, and it was 3.5, 3.75. It's a massive
people were
difference.
refining from 6 to 5. That's a big stinking difference. And I knew people that refied from 6 to 5 and 5 to 4 and 4 to 3.5. And some of that's a little bit of gamesmanship. But the point is, we're basically at the floor now. I mean, you can't ask for a whole lot more in regard to an interest rate when borrowing. Now, if you're trying to save money in a savings account, well, that's the flip side of that. You're getting 0.016% or whatever the case may be. But we're not that kind of show. We do real estate here.
Yep.
Texas real estate with Todd Tramonte.
Here you go. Next question. It's kind of two questions in one for you. Anytime I talk to people on the phone, a lot of times the questions that we get are listing price is negotiable, and also are commissions fixed?
So here's the deal. Let's answer your question to you first. No, commissions are not fixed. Now, they may be with your agent, or with one individual agent or team or brokerage, but the real estate industry is regulated a lot. One of the main pieces of case law that's relevant to residential real estate agents is what's called the Sherman Antitrust Act. It's basically law that establishes anti-competitive behavior as illegal, right? Which includes price fixing, right? So if 20 agents in one town can't get together and say, hey, let's all charge the same thing and we'll control the market, that's absolutely not allowed. So for that reason, no, commissions are not fixed. Now, you might call your friend Bob from ABC Realty or whatever, and they have a fee that they feel is fair for their service. By all means, they can set their own fee. It's totally up to them. But no, there is not a market-wide, statewide, national, whatever standard rate. And a lot of times you'll hear someone say, we're a discount broker. Well, it's a weird term because there is no standard. So discount from what? Now, there's nothing wrong with it. It communicates a clear message. But the fact of the matter is, all commissions are negotiable and not set by law. I owned a franchise for a long time, and that was a legally required disclaimer on everything we did. All commissions are negotiable and not set by law. That doesn't mean an agent has to negotiate with you. It means that agents cannot fix price or set a standard commission for the market across multiple brokerages and agencies. So that being said, if you're a home seller or a home buyer, you have a lot of choices. It doesn't mean you should go for the cheapest. It doesn't mean you should go for the most expensive. What I think it means is that you ought to ask questions and find the right agent who can deliver on your goals and your needs. And that is rarely going to be the cheapest, but it's also rarely going to be the person who is closest to your house or quickest to call you back. I mean, those are not always the signs of expertise. You call a heart surgeon's office, you're not always going to get an immediate call back or, speak directly with a heart surgeon. They're not always going to have availability tomorrow, and they're certainly not always going to be the cheapest or closest to your house. So people make a lot of poor decisions around choosing real estate agents for the reasons we just stated. But the short answer to your question is no, commissions are not set. I always go down that tangent. But I think it's a valuable one for our listeners. You're listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and this show's not about me. It's not about us. It's about advocating and providing valuable information for DFW, buyers, sellers, renters, investors, folks that are interested in real estate, so that you can make a wise choice for you and your family based on quality information that's unbiased. Now, let me be very clear. I would love to earn your business. Every day, all day at the Todd Tramonte home selling team, that's where I lead our team and our brokerage. We would absolutely love to be your buyer specialist when it comes time to buy and your marketing specialist when it comes time to market and sell your home. A lot of people call that a listing agent. We'd love to earn your business, and you can call us at 214-310-0008, 214-310-0008, or you can always find us online anytime, day or night, at overunderagent.com. That's overunderagent.com. And we have that weird website because we guarantee to sell your home over the average price and under the average time, overunderagent.com. That's a guarantee that sounds crazy, but it's because we've been doing this for 18 plus years now, and we've built a system where that is our primary focus, to deliver world-class value to our home seller clients, in addition to breaking all-time records of highest sold price possible. And if that's what the client wants, breaking records for fastest sale, quickest time on the market. Now, not everybody wants, some people say, look, it'd be great to sell in 60 days because that's when our new home will be built. Well, of course, we can accommodate that. But the point is, that's why it's overunderagent.com, because we guarantee to sell homes over the average price and under the average time. Overunderagent.com. We also, by the way, guarantee to save home buyers at least $5,000 in the process of buying a home, or we'll cover some of your closing costs. So you can find us for either of those things online at overunderagent.com. This next segment is brought to you by StrikerBuilds.com. That's our preferred roofer. We send a lot of clients their way. They just did a brand new roof for me on a new patio cover at our house. They're in and they're out quick. They're very good at what they do, whether it's insurance-related work or an addition to the house, roofing, gutters, whatever the case may be. StrikerBuilds.com, StrikerBuilds.com. The owners over there are really good, honest, hardworking guys. They also own an insurance brokerage, so they totally understand if you have an insurance claim, or you're just wanting a prettier property, or you just have damage that needs to be repaired. StrikerBuilds.com.
So I want to go back to the last question we asked you, and the very first part of that was to do with listing prices. Mm-hmm. How are they negotiable? How do you come up with them? Would you talk a little bit about how your team goes about pricing a property and then explaining that to a potential client when we sit down with them?
Yeah, so in short, for about, 70, 80 years now, real estate brokers have been training real estate agents to do what most people refer to as comps, or a CMA, a comparative market analysis, or a competitive market analysis, whatever word you want to use. But most people, sadly, the ones that are still using this completely outdated approach of valuing property, are basically looking at three homes that are somewhat similar, two or three or four houses that are somewhat similar that have sold in the last, say, 6 months. And then they're averaging that price per square foot and simply multiplying that times your home square footage. A hardworking agent might then make an adjustment or two based on uniqueness of your home. Now, where I feel like they're falling way, 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 way short is they're not also evaluating the local economic climate, political climate, development climate, the seasonality, the time of the year, the trending future pacing of the market. I mean, you tell me, if home values have been rising for the last 8 years plus, would you want to sell your house today based on the average of 3 homes that potentially sold 6 months ago?
No, thank you.
No. Why would anybody want to do that? Even if home values aren't rising that fast, and they're still rising fairly fast. 6 months ago being a lower number, no, I don't want that average to dictate. Right. It's like driving down the road with your family in the car, only looking in the rear view mirror. It's super dangerous and just dumb. So the way we would go about helping a client, and I say helping a client because it's their home, they should trust our expertise like I would trust my doctor's expertise, but I still choose, what I do. And a seller should be able to as well. But they ought to do that based on very detailed, thoughtful, technical information way beyond simply the average of 3 properties. So a great agent will say, hey, we've sold some homes in the area. Here's what we ran into. Here's where our opportunities were. Homes like yours tend to act a little bit differently. This size home does this. And that house looks like it's comparable, but here's why we would not factor that in. Here's what appraisers are typically doing in the area. Hey, the city council is proposing this, and that could have some impact here. They're doing road construction over there, so that changes things a little bit. To fully understand and know what affects a buyer's opinion of value, what affects an appraiser's evaluation of value, what affects an inspector, an appraiser, a surveyor, what's going to impact photos, and what's going to impact the level of competition and the number of offers we may get. All of those things ought to be considered. And so we would explain all of that to a seller, and then we would make a decision together with that seller on what's best to price their home and where we feel like we're going to end up. And our goal, and I would say 95 out of 100 times, we're successful at this, where our seller's probably going to get at or above what we asked for that house. Now, there are some scenarios where we know that may not be the case, but strategically we pursue a different route. But the old, price it high and let somebody, negotiate you back down is a pretty outdated and silly way of doing things. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen sometimes. By all means, it does happen sometimes. But just to assume that that's how it's always going to go, in my opinion, and I would say the data shows this very clearly, is a very expensive and lazy approach to valuing a home and planning on negotiating. It's a long answer to a short question. And the first time through, I only got half of it. But I appreciate you circling back because we want to answer questions for you. So if you ever send us a question and we don't answer it completely, shoot us a message back on social media. Send us an email. We'll be happy to address that for you again. The thing that I want to stress today is that the market is very good. If you're thinking about buying or selling anytime in 2020, give us a call or shoot us a text, whatever's easy for you, 214-310-0008. The Todd Tramonte Home Selling Team would love to earn your business or just offer you a bit of free technical quality advice. 214-310-0008. Call or text 214-310-0008. Or you can always find us online at overunderagent.com, where we guarantee to sell your home over the average price and under the average time, overunderagent.com. Now, what we've been doing all of January and now well into February is sitting down with people for a totally free, no obligation, what we call strategy session, just to answer questions and help you plan on whatever your real estate goals are anytime throughout the year of 2020. So there's no pressure to buy something. There's no pressure to make some grand commitment and set a price for your home or set a timeline to move into something. But it's been really valuable for a lot of people just to say, hey, we think we want to buy and sell this year. When should we do that? Here's our credit information. Here's our budget. Here's our timetable. Here's kind of our areas we're interested in. Here's areas we don't know much about. And for one of our professional full-time experts to sit down and say, hey, have you ever thought about this area? You mentioned this criteria. That's going to be a little bit harder to get in your budget over here. Hey, let's talk again in May. And then, take some time, drive those areas. But to really help people get their head around what it's going to take to achieve their goals without being pressured at the last minute, because those impulsive decisions at the last minute are very, very expensive. So we just don't want people to do that. Now, when we come back after the break, we're going to talk a lot more about the 2-year flip, an investment strategy that I wrote a book about years ago, but that conversation has been coming up more and more and more. So we'll answer that, talk more about that and answer more of your questions when we come back with more Texas Real Estate on WBAP.
Welcome back to Texas Real Estate with your host, real estate expert and author Todd Tramonte.
Welcome back, folks. You are listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte. And we've got a special guest in our temporary studios today. We're still building out our new studios, so we're excited to soon have very, very cool, very new elite appliance studio for you. But this segment is also brought to you by Patrick Glaros and his phenomenal team over at Cardinal Financial. So you can always find them online at patrickglaros.com. That's Glaros, patrickglaros.com. And I just want to mention, because we get this question a lot on, hey, I missed the phone number or I missed the domain of one of the contributors or one of the show sponsors, you can always find all of our recommended professionals or any of our guests or any of their information over at treradio.com. TRE is short for Texas Real Estate, so you can always find that at treradio.com. Now, we've got one of our good buddies, David Van Asche, in studio with us right now. David owns a real estate company in Williston, North Dakota. And if you're not familiar with that, that's okay.
Not Willington.
Not
as
Willington,
I keep calling it.
which is the extra English way of saying it, but Williston. An oil field community in North Dakota, gorgeous area that's deeply rooted in the oil industry and the trades surrounding that. And so a market that tends to boom a little bit and bust a little bit as the oil industry goes. So times have been pretty good for a while now. But David and his team operate there on, in a lot of ways, a similar model to how we operate here in the DFW area. So I just want to ask you a couple of questions and kind of get your thoughts on the market as a whole. And for our fans and our listeners here in the DFW area, I think there's going to be a couple of key takeaways. So if you're tuning in now, stay tuned because this is relevant to you, and I'll tell you how if it's not super obvious here in just a minute. So you want to share just a little bit about kind of what you're doing in Williston that is working or making a difference there.
Yeah, Todd, well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure working with you and learning from your team and everything that you guys have demonstrated and shown, which is super unique, and I've been able to take away a ton of different things and ultimately found ways to provide way more value to our clients. I mean, in a small town like where we're at, we've got people that have been doing real estate the same way for 30 plus years, and it's always been the same players. I'm fairly new to real estate myself. However, taking what you guys have presented and shown, it's made it phenomenally, well, I should say not easy, but having that sense of delivering value and showing how we can, actually show a client, a buyer or a seller, what we can do that generates value, that helps. If it's a seller, how to sell their home for more money, how to sell it faster. If we're representing buyers, the kinds of things that we can do to influence the other side, to find out, what is their bottom number. And there's, just strong negotiation skills and different things that have just been absolutely great to learn about and implement and actually see real results.
Yeah. So for folks listening in today, you may have never heard us talk about the coaching and consulting side of our business. And that's not the most valuable thing for DFW area buyers, sellers, investors. So we don't talk about it a ton, but it just illustrates the point that, our goal is to deliver world-class value to buyers and sellers and investors. And sadly, that's not necessarily the primary goal of our industry as a whole. For example, the national associations and state associations across the country, including, Canada and some other parts of the world too, are not always primarily focused on what's best for the consumer. A lot of times it's protection and perseverance of the industry, right? It's maintaining membership numbers and it's maintaining keeping people in the business and the idea of potential success in front of people, where we've come at this from a different angle, and folks like you have taken that and modeled it in markets all over the country, from huge markets like Phoenix and Miami and Sacramento and Los Angeles and New York City and New Jersey, all over the place. But to hear about the impact it can have in a smaller market like Williston is really, really exciting. Now, I want to pinpoint something. You talked about how, agents in that market have kind of been doing things the same way for 30 or 40 years. And then you pointed out some of the things that you're doing. And with all due respect to you, and honestly to me too, the things you then said sounded like things that should be standard, right? You said showing a seller what you can do to sell their house faster and for more money. Showing a buyer exactly what it is that you do for them instead of just saying, let's go look at houses. Now, you and I know that stuff is not necessarily normal. But I think the average listener to a radio talk show about real estate thinks that is normal. Can you explain a little bit more about what's normal and not normal in your market and how some of these concepts are impacting clients?
Yeah, I've heard it many times, and that unfortunately, for the most part, real estate is a game of amateurs.
Yeah.
And by coming at it from a professional perspective, like, let me back up a little bit. So when I went to school for accounting and finance, my goal was to become a CPA. You have to study 150 credit hours, take a grueling exam. There's all kinds of requirements to become a CPA, which is a licensed job similar to a real estate agent. However, it's the bar to get into being a real estate agent is way too low, and people get in and then they don't take it serious. They don't study, they don't train, they don't learn how to be an actual professional. And so by coming at this industry from that perspective, we're really able to just knock the socks off of people, especially in a small town where we don't have 90,000 agents running around. There's 90.
Right.
And so that makes a big difference. And so
just 1,000 times less.
Our clients are absolutely in love with us. We've only been, like I said, in the business for a short time, and our Google reviews are blowing up. And I'll admit, that our competition is not happy with us, and I can understand why. Their job just got a lot harder, but it's the right thing to do. Clients really love it, and it's what needs to be more prevalent throughout the whole country, if not, the world where real estate's done.
Right. And I love that attitude that it's the right thing to do, right? Of course, it's great for your business. It's great for your agents. It's great for the income that you and your team members can make, and the systems and the culture that you can build. But it's the right thing to do for home buyers and home sellers and renters and landlords and investors and all the above. And I think this idea that real estate agents are like the sweet, super friendly friend from the neighborhood is okay. But if that's not also backed, like you were saying, by expertise and study and commitment and full-time diligence, then a lot of times you get really well-intentioned, nice people that just aren't doing a great job. They're just amateur status, right? Like, you can want to do a great job all you want, but until you're truly committed and invested in it, it's not likely that you're going to do so, right? And I'll tell you what came to mind as you were talking. You talked about this little town that's kind of stuck in the ways of 30, 40, 50 years ago. Well, we're in this massive city here in Dallas-Fort Worth, but it's not all that different. So many brokerages and so many agents are still stuck in the way that real estate was done not only 30 and 40 years ago, but 70 or 80 years ago. Now, some things have changed, right? We have a digital MLS now. That used to be a printed bound book, right? We have digital signatures. You used to have to drive across town or, go get physical signatures, and then it was fax, and now we're doing it all digitally. But the fact of the matter is, you've got people that are still part-time real estate agents doing it on the side, kind of working friends and family, but not committed. Like you said, there is no CPA exam or LSAT to become an attorney or MCAT to become a doctor. Yet it's my belief, and I know you share this view because you've bought in, is that your real estate agent really should operate at a similar level to your CPA or your attorney or your family doctor, because what they're doing for you is about as important as filing your taxes or protecting your legal rights or maintaining your regular standard health. Spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 or $1 million on a home, or selling one or leasing one or investing in one, has massive impact in your life. Yet these other areas that have massive impact, you expect someone to come at it with a true level of professionalism and expertise. But in this area, people have been hiring their goofball nephew who barely got his license on the internet, or the friend of a friend from tennis, or school teacher who does it in the summertime. And listen, I know that most of those people are good, heartfelt, legitimate people, but they're not world-class experts. They're not committed to excellence and systems and process that would really drive results. So I love seeing that mentality. And for you in a small town, you're totally shaking up that whole community. Would you just share like one or two things that you guys are doing that's different, that the older agents don't like, that is like super, super helpful for your clients?
Well, right off the bat, two things right away. Pre-listing inspections. Every time we talk to a seller, even before we agree to sign a listing agreement with them, we hire, the home inspector that normally would work for a buyer. We hire that same home inspector. They come in, give us a nice report of everything wrong with the house. Every house has something. We can fix those things, identify what they are, and it helps to create a negotiating tool that we can use down the road. So that's a biggie. Other things that maybe in other markets are more common, curb appeal. What does it take to fix up the front of a house?
But let me stop you just for a second, because it's not a genius idea to say, oh, you should try to make the house look good from the street. But typically an agent is telling that client, like, hey, go do these things. And you guys are innovating in amazing ways where sometimes you're doing some of that for them, or kind of dictate, like helping them understand what to do. And we do a lot of those same things. But
right, and the reason why we do the things for them, instead of just telling a seller, you need to do this, do this, do this, well, these are not things that the average seller does every day.
Right.
We do this every day, day in and day out. We have the right contacts, the right vendors. We know who's going to get the job done efficiently for a good price and take care of the client. And that just makes things way simpler for the client. Everything, and ultimately, I'll be honest, it makes things easier on us. But,
sure.
But that's just a side benefit.
That's a mutual benefit, yeah.
Right. But ultimately, all of these things really just deliver phenomenal value to the seller, and the relationships you can build and the results that get delivered ultimately.
And one of the things that's a little bit harder to describe on radio is just the use of technology, right? So every real estate agent worth their salt is utilizing the MLS or maybe a basic website. But the ability to find the ideal buyers for your sellers through the use of technology, or even finding sellers that buyers don't know about for your buyers, off-market properties, things like that. The use of technology and systems and tools and prospecting and staff, where the typical agent is a solo agent working out of the house or the car, and they're working really hard. I don't want to take anything away from any one personal agent, but as an industry, that model doesn't bring the same level of value that somebody with an office and a staff and agents who might specialize in one thing or another thing can really deliver. And that's where, obviously our goal in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is to stand out and to deliver more value to clients. It's a very muddy market here where buyers and sellers and investors are getting thousands of messages, whether it's radio, television, online, social media, mailbox, whatever the case may be. You guys have obviously done an incredible job in a market where that type of marketing is not normal, being in the mailbox and on the radio, but doing so in a way that actually benefits the client and is not just all this ego marketing for yourself. And I think that's our goal here. I know that's our goal here as a Todd Tramonte home selling team here in DFW, where there's a lot of marketing messages, but a lot of it is what I call ego marketing. It's look at me, look at my trophies, use me because I'm great, as opposed to look at the results that these technology systems, tools, staff, team have produced for other sellers, which is why we're always talking about. We guarantee to sell homes over the average price and under the average time. Right now, we're averaging about 7.6% over the average sales price for our sellers. Those are the results that our sellers are achieving. This is about results. This is about what you can do if we work together, what money you can put in your pocket. And that's just a more valuable message for a seller than I'm a platinum award winner, I was rookie of the year, look at how many, all that stuff. And I know you guys are doing some of the same stuff, and it's taking a small town in North Dakota by storm. And the agents don't love it, and the consumers are lapping it up because it's adding real value to their lives. So well done. Really, I'm really encouraged by what you guys are doing. And it reminds me that even though we're on a much larger scale here in Dallas-Fort Worth, we're dealing with a lot of the same stuff. Agents and brokerages that have been doing this business the same way for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And I feel like you said, it's our obligation to make sure that consumers know there's a better way. And agents might not like it, but it's the right thing to do. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else you feel like someone in Dallas-Fort Worth ought to appreciate about the difference in the scale and resources of our market that, smaller towns and smaller state, different parts of the country might not be able to take advantage of?
Just the short, just under a year that I've been working with Todd and his team and learning what they do. These guys have been doing this for 15, 18 plus years. Just a little bit of tip of the iceberg that I've learned has just delivered phenomenal results for my clients. And, you ought to, come talk to these guys and find out what they can do for you, because honestly, as a fellow agent, broker, whatever, that the information and value that I'm able to deliver to these clients of mine is just it's unheard of.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Really fun to have you in studio. We'll take some questions now. Maybe you can pitch in on some of those if you'd like. But you can always send us your questions online at treradio.com. If you're curious what your house would sell for or rent for in the current market, head over to valuethishouse.com. And under 1 minute, you can get an assessment of your property's value right now. Valuethishouse.com. Less than 1 minute. Find out what your house would sell for in this crazy market. Valuethishouse.com.
Just on the off chance that anybody listening knows somebody moving to North Dakota, or
right.
just in case you are maybe thinking of moving to North Dakota, reach out to us and we will connect you with David.
That's right.
As well.
You know, actually, before we get to the next question, and go ahead and get ready because we'll jump right into that. But if ever you're looking for a really great real estate agent anywhere in the country, you can always call us. And through our network, whether it's somebody that we might coach and consult with or someone we might know through an organization we're a member of, we will help you make a wise choice on an agent to hire in another state or another city. By all means, if it's within the state of Texas, we've got somebody in just about every city, small or big. But if it's in another part of the country, we can make a few phone calls and find somebody great, and we would be absolutely happy to plug you in with someone to help you buy, sell, or invest anywhere in the United States. And you could always just connect with us by phone, 214-310-0008. Just save that in your phone. You can call or text us with anything you ever need. 214-310-0008 or online at overunderagent.com.
Okay, big question people are asking a lot right now. Okay. Elections coming up. Don't know if you knew that. Big election this year is coming up.
What kind of election?
Big one.
Okay.
Yeah, big one. How is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect the housing market? What are your thoughts?
Okay, there's two ways to think about this. Number one is it's going to affect you a lot. But on the other hand, in a market like Dallas-Fort Worth that's had really positive momentum for the last 8+ years, I believe the election will continue to will only have positive impacts. Now, here's where you are going to hear some negative things. You are going to hear, regardless of party affiliation or things, you're going to hear big promises made. Some of those promises are going to involve taxes going up, and there's always conversations in the state of Texas around property taxes. Some politicians are going to promise you that they're going to lower your property taxes. I wouldn't take a whole lot of stock in that, right? I think it's a political move for the most part. I don't know that any taxing authority on the local level has ever given any tax revenue back. I've just rarely ever seen that. Now, I understand that right now some Republican leaders are talking about lowering the amount that property taxes can be increased on an annual basis. I would love to see that happen. I think that would be great for everybody, but I don't expect to see that happen. That's just an example of some of the things you'll hear in an election cycle. You know, when it comes down to who's president, the state of Texas has pretty much done what it's going to do under Republican leadership, Democrat leadership, mixed leadership between the House and Senate. So Texas tends to follow a pretty consistent trajectory. Now, when you start thinking about the impact that state and local elections can have, that's where your local area might be impacted more, where you might see a school board election change, a bond election change your local taxes and the cost of living in a certain area. And those things can change where somebody might choose to live, or the confidence somebody has staying someplace, or how long someone can stay in their house as their tax values rise. You know, there's unfortunately, as valuations rise, people who have a house that's completely paid for are still seeing their cost of living in that home go up because they've got to cover their taxes. So that's just an example of how the local elections might actually have more impact on your homeownership and cost of homeownership here in Texas. On a national level, you're going to hear a lot of promises and a lot of threats, but historically, Texas has fared pretty well in regard to housing either way, as far as president.
Great. All right, we're on the clock. We've got about 4 minutes left, okay?
We'll see.
We'll see. What are the main costs associated with buying a house? Mm-hmm. How much cash do I need to be able to purchase one?
$17.
Perfect.
Got it.
I got 18.
Well, and you, sir, are rolling. So what costs are associated with buying a home? this could be different for different people, and it really does depend a lot on your financial situation, what you're buying, where you're buying, all those things. But typically speaking, you're going to need a down payment of some form. If you're buying all cash, then obviously you need as much cash as the cost of your home plus some of the things we're about to cover. If you're borrowing money, you could get a loan for as low as 3% down, but it's going to cost you more than just your down payment to buy a home. Oftentimes, you might be required by your lender to prepay some taxes or some insurance. You're going to have other costs like turning on utilities, moving. You might find that your new home, whether it's a apartment or a house or a condo townhome, requires some different furnishing needs. If you're buying a larger home, literally just heating it, cooling it, water, trash, sewer, some of those things are going to cost a little bit more. So you really need to be aware of more than simply the purchase price of the home. There's down payment. There are often loan fees. There's title fees or transfer fees or things like that. Here in Texas, those tend to be relatively minimal, and the absolute mandatory portion of that is probably somewhere between 1% and 2% plus your down payment. Now, again, that doesn't incorporate your cost of moving, or you might want to paint some walls or buy a new couch or things like that. Beyond that, the cost of home ownership that a lot of people underestimate are those things like heating and cooling and cable, and insurance is a big one that people overlook a lot. So those are some big buckets to think about. Another piece of that, of literally like how much cash do I need, is more than you were probably thinking. Is a good example.
It's perfect. All right, one more question, okay?
Yep.
We were teased it at the very beginning, or right as we went to the break. Flips. What's the current market for it? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the market is always good for flipping. Regardless of what market you're in, it's always good. Sometimes it's harder to buy, sometimes it's harder to sell. Right now, most investors would tell you it's harder to buy, meaning there's not a lot of homes available right now, like way below market value. But the good news is the selling market is extraordinarily strong. So if you can buy a home with a relative value, then you have the opportunity to add some real equity and do fairly well selling. Now, what I referenced earlier was a book I wrote several years ago called Live Free, The Art of the 2-Year Flip. It's basically a booklet. It's very short. I think it's on Kindle for 99 cents. If you want to go get it, great. If not, call us and ask a question. But what it means is
bestseller.
Buying a home that is not in great shape, that you can get very affordably, living in it for 2 years, and throughout that time, remodeling it to the point that you get to live in a really nicely, newly remodeled home, and then selling it after the 2-year point. It can be 2 years in one day, or it could be 30 years. It just has to be at least 2 years of your primary residence. And the tax law allows for an individual person to earn up to $250,000 of tax-free profit, or for a married couple to earn up to $500,000 of tax-free profit. That's tax-free. That's not income tax. That's not short-term capital gains. That's not long-term capital gains. That is 100% tax-free profit. And there are very, very few places you can earn tax-free profit. So theoretically, you're getting a huge, depending on your tax bracket, 15, 20, 30% increase in your profits because you're not paying taxes. You can then roll those profits back into a purchase of a larger home, a nicer home, a more expensive home, or you can pay your living expenses and go do it again. So you can read the book, or you can just take that quick summary and go take action. But if we could ever help you do that, give us a call, 214-310-0008, or online at overunderagent.com. More Texas real estate next week on WBAP.